This sanctioning body president is not a disinterested party. He, as he's claiming, I'm not. He has business interests he clearly feels, in my opinion, are threatened by a shifting landscape in boxing. And I am a part of that shifting landscape. It ain't business as usual anymore, where these cancerous sanctioning body cells drain the life out of the sport year after.
Max Kellerman, even when confronting the most powerful figure in the WBC, is making his stance unmistakably clear. He's been loud, consistent, and unapologetic in declaring that the alphabet soup era is finished, with sanctioning bodies like the WBC acting as a cancer choking the sport. And he isn't guessing. He's holding 25 years of receipts proving his criticism is authentic, not influenced. This isn't a simple media dispute. It's a battle for boxing's future, and Kellerman is prepared to dismantle the old system piece by piece. To understand why the WBC president is furious at a commentator, you have to follow the money he just watched evaporate. Organizations like the WBC, WBA, and IBF survive on sanctioning fees. If you want their belt, you owe them a percentage. Fighters have paid this for decades, a mandatory tax for glory. But then Terence Crawford beat Canelo Alvarez, collected a reported $50 million, and decided he was finished paying for the privilege.
Mauricio, got a lot to say about me not paying him $300,000 plus another $100K something for sanction fees, right? Then he gonna tell me I ain't even apologize? Like, who the fuck you think I am? Boy, you better slap your fucking self. Ain't paying your ass shit. Fuck you talking about pay you $300,000. What makes you so motherfucking better than any of the other sanctioned bodies? Huh? Answer that question. What makes you better than the WBO, the IBF, or the WBA? Everybody accepted what I was giving them. But you, the WBC, think that you better than everybody, don't you? So since you, the WBC, and you got the fucking green belt, which don't mean fucking shit. The fucking real belt is the ring belt, which is free, motherfucker. What are you talking about? You want me to pay you more than the other sanctioned bodies because you feel like you better than them. How in the world all the sanctioned bodies agreed to the same amount, but you sit your motherfucking ass up there and say that I need to apologize to you? The fuck? You can take the fucking belt. It's a trophy anyway.
The WBC sent Crawford the bill, even after discounting it to around 0.6%. They demanded roughly $300,000 simply for allowing him to keep the green belt he had already won. Crawford's response instantly became boxing folklore. He didn't negotiate or request leniency. He went public and essentially said, "I'm not paying your useless fee." He dismissed the belt as a trophy and dared them to come retrieve it. It was a massive humiliation for the WBC. When the world's top fighter treats your title like meaningless decoration, it signals to every fighter that the illusion is over. The WBC had no option but to strip him. But the damage was irreversible. The rebellion had begun.
Terence Crawford has been very successful in the ring. He has been a world champion for 12 or 13 years, multiple times with the WBO in super lightweight. He won the WBC super lightweight. Then he unified and became undisputed in welterweight against WBC champion, who was Spence, in a great fight. He petitioned to fight a final elimination bout in super welterweight against Madrimov and remained champion in welter. The WBC supported him. He did not comply with the rules. Then he moves up to super middle and makes the fight of the century, beats Canelo, makes $50 million or around that. The WBC absolutely is not going to charge 3% of such an amount. We made a very clear 0.6%, which is $300,000, with $225,000 going to the Jose Sulaiman Boxers Fund, which is to help former fighters in need. And it is just regrettable. Not even a thank you or I'm sorry, taking a different route, no response. I wish him the best. But this is not. The WBC is huge, it's great, it's about greatness, and I'm relieved, to tell you the truth.
And Max didn't just comment on the Crawford fallout. He used it as fuel to launch a full-scale philosophical attack against the entire structure of sanctioning bodies. On his show, Max was relentless. He portrayed organizations like the WBC not as protectors of boxing, but as parasitic growths. The analogy is harsh, but accurate. What does a cancer cell do? It attaches to a host, drains its resources, and expands, offering nothing of value in return.
The one doing the critiquing is not a journalist. He's not a disinterested party. Disinterested, by the way, doesn't mean uninterested. They're conflated. Disinterested means you're neutral. You're an observer the way a scientist looks at data, right? They can't be rooting for one outcome or another. And this sanctioning body president is not a disinterested party. He, as he's claiming, I'm not. He has business interests he clearly feels, in my opinion, are threatened by a shifting landscape in boxing. And I am a part of that shifting landscape. It ain't business as usual anymore, where these cancerous sanctioning body cells drain the life out of the sport year after year. Finally, I want to say this. In terms of the thought that based on the identity of my employers, you have to take what I say with a grain of salt. You should. You should consider all these things. You should also judge what I'm saying based on the content of what I'm saying and the truthfulness of it.
Max argued that decades ago, perhaps these bodies helped maintain order. But today, they function as middlemen extracting cash from the fighters who actually step into the ring. Fans don't buy tickets to see a belt. They buy tickets to see Terence Crawford or Canelo Alvarez. If fighters are the product and fans are the consumers, why are millions flowing to bureaucratic entities in the middle? Max declared that the era where these groups could quietly siphon money from the sport is over. And that specific description, calling them cancerous, is what sent Mauricio Sulaiman into a rage.
I said exactly what I'm saying now about Ring Magazine championships and the sanctioning body championships for the past 25 years. I have been employed by Ring Magazine for several months now, but I've been saying the same exact thing I'm saying now for 25 years.
Just pick up Ring Magazine and it says so inside. They list the real champions in each division, and people say, well, what gives Ring Magazine the legitimacy to rank champions? What about the sanctioning bodies? No, the sanctioning bodies have blown it a million ways.
You got receipts?
I got receipts
Let's get it.
posted on.
When Suleiman responded, he didn't provide numbers or transparency. He launched into character attacks instead. In his Fight Hype interview, he brushed off Max's comments with laughter, but the tension was obvious. He argued that Max's sudden hostility wasn't genuine. His reasoning: Max Kellerman now works for the Ring Magazine, which is owned by the Saudi General Entertainment Authority, run by His Excellency Turki Alashik.
Kellerman spoke with Mr. Khan earlier today in an interview, and they spoke about
No, please, I will not comment because that is a scripted commentary.
Okay.
The WBC does not have outlets. They own that outlet, so they can script. And it is so embarrassing how low Max Kellerman, Mike Coppinger, they have gone so low because they do represent the publication. So it is scripted. It's biased completely. So I don't like to comment on that.
Okay. Well,
You are doing an interview. This is not biased. I am answering every single question.
absolutely.
And I don't owe anything to you. You don't owe anything to me. You ask, I respond. But to talk about a program that is scripted, absolutely not.
Suleiman's story is that Turki Alashik is trying to eliminate the old sanctioning bodies and build his own super league, using Max Kellerman as a mouthpiece. By calling Max scripted, Suleiman hopes the public will believe Max is reading lines crafted by a billionaire boss. It's a smart defense because it dodges the actual criticism and instead questions the messenger's integrity. But Suleiman chose the wrong opponent. a commentator who treats the English language like a weapon.
Well, what about the Muhammad Ali Act? They spoke about just it having an option for the fighter to go a different direction, and they still nothing's going to change. They're just going to add an option where you can fight for another company. You don't have to just stay with the Muhammad Ali Act. That
is not true. That is not true. Fighters have options. They can sign with Golden Boy, with Top Rank, with Iron Tiger, with Queensberry, with Matchroom, with John Doe. Those are the options, and Muhammad Ali Act helps them to have representation, a manager to sit down and negotiate and know the financials of every event. And the Muhammad Ali Act prevents the promoters from having a abuse of power, controlling a fighter, controlling the rankings, controlling a title. The WBC has to disclose many things to the authorities in the United States on every fight, on the rankings every month. It is a big cloud that should be analyzed and put openly, because they're very smart on trying to say they're very smart and everybody's not as they are. It is a very controversial thing that should not be taken lightly.
Max's rebuttal was a masterclass in calm, intellectual dismantling. No yelling, no insults, just precision. Max focused on the concept of bias and drew a distinction most people overlook: uninterested versus disinterested. Uninterested means you don't care. Disinterested means impartial, having no stake in the outcome. A scientist observing an experiment is disinterested. They only care about truth. Max argued he is the disinterested party here. He doesn't work for the WBC, and he's not in the promoter's pockets. He is analyzing facts. Suleiman, on the other hand, is the interested party, financially dependent on maintaining the system. By flipping the narrative, Max positioned himself as the objective observer and Suleiman as the businessman fighting to protect a fading revenue model.
His criticism of the WBC is very well warranted, okay? The WBC, even though it was corrupt back when Jose Sulaiman would do corrupt things with Don King during his tenure, which was even depicted in The Great White Hype, which you were in, but another story for another day. Samuel Jackson being Don King, Jose Sulaiman being Cheech in that movie. That's who they were referencing. But despite all the corruption they've always had, when Mauricio inherited his father's company, he had a position to go the right path and make the WBC stand head and shoulders above the rest as clearly the most prestigious belt. It was the most prestigious belt when he inherited it. And instead, through short-term gain, short-sightedness, greed, and all that, he has put himself in a position now where he is losing deservedly in the court of public opinion against Crawford and, more importantly, TKO. And we'll get to that later on. And just to back up, just to not hold any water for the WBC, there's a picture I'll put up here. I remember in 2021, there was a time I had a WBC calendar, and on the calendar, it had Ryan Garcia with a WBC interim title, Devin Haney with the WBC title, and Teofimo Lopez with the WBC franchise title. And I used to make the joke, what the WBC will do is get 3% of Teofimo Lopez, 3% of Devin Haney, and 3% of Ryan Garcia. We will have 3 WBC champions in the same weight class at the same time!
But the strongest part of Max's defense wasn't the grammar lesson, it was the history. Suleiman's argument relied on the idea that Max's criticism began only after joining the Saudi-backed Ring magazine. But Max pulled out decades of proof. He challenged anyone to rewatch his HBO segments from 1998 or ESPN discussions from the 2000s. Fans quickly resurfaced old footage, and the truth was undeniable. Max Kellerman has criticized the alphabet sanctioning bodies for 25 years. He has always argued that boxing needs one true champion per division, the lineal champion, and that belts have devolved into overpriced trinkets. This destroys Suleiman's narrative. Unless the Saudis traveled back in time to script interviews from 2005, the accusation collapses. Max isn't saying this because of new employers, he's saying it because he always believed it. The only difference is that today, His platform is powerful enough to spark change. And that leads to the real conflict. This isn't about Max or Crawford. It's about the seismic power shift known as the Riyadh season takeover. For decades, the WBC, WBA, and IBF controlled boxing by controlling rankings. If you wanted a mega fight, you needed their title. But Turkey Al-Sheikh and Saudi investment have rewritten the rules.
You know, when I was coming up, all the writers would call them trinkets, right? But by Oscar always wearing the WBC, Floyd, Tyson, on and on, the WBC was the romantic title for me. That, hey, if I ever became a champion, that's the one I'd want to fight for. But I'm sitting at the press conference yesterday. I'm here in Texas covering Pitbull Roach, which is a WBC interim super lightweight title. And in a couple of weeks, Subriel Matias, who had Osterine in the system, is defending the full title so that Mauricio could get 3% of 2 belts in the same division. And if that isn't egregious enough, because we do know Teofimo Lopez is the super lightweight champion of the world, right? And yet they're trying to convince me this interim title fight is legitimately for the super lightweight champ. I don't know what world they're referencing. Not this one where Teofimo Lopez is the champion. If that wasn't egregious enough, on the undercard is Shane Mosley Jr., who I love Shane Jr., but he's never really been a top 10 in any given weight class. Coming off a career best win, beating Daniel Jacobs, shout out to him. But he's fighting Jesus Ramos, who's accomplished nothing at middleweight, and they got it for a WBC interim world title. And that's when I went, God damn it, they really are trinkets. He really has turned it into this. So Crawford's right, but it's coming at a time where he's holding water for TKO in what definitely looks like a coordinated attack to take out the head, and the rest will follow. Nick Khan went after them in a PR fluff dressed as an interview with Max Kellerman, going after the WBC. Yesterday in Congress, the House of Representatives, one of the talking points TKO used was going after the WBC stripping Crawford. Mauricio played right into their...
They are making fights based on what fans want, not what outdated rankings dictate. They are giving fighters career-high purses that make sanctioning fees look absurd. And with rumors swirling about a unified Super League with Dana White and TKO involved, the traditional sanctioning bodies are staring down extinction. If the money is coming from Riyadh and the prestige comes from beating elite opponents, what role does the WBC even serve? That's the question Mauricio Suleiman is losing sleep over. Max is simply the voice saying it out loud. The broader boxing world has erupted in debate, showing how deep the divide runs. TalkSport's Adam Catterall backed Max, calling the sanctioning bodies outdated cash machines. The old guard struck back. Oscar de la Hoya criticized Crawford, accusing him of disrespecting boxing's heritage and insisting sanctioning fees are essential for legacy. Ryan Garcia joined in, branding Crawford's refusal as cowardice. Meanwhile, UFC CEO Dana White used the chaos to spotlight how broken boxing's current model is. This is no longer a dispute between a commentator and a president. It's a full-blown ideological war involving every major voice in combat sports.
What did you think of the WBC stripping Terence Crawford of his belt?
Listen, if you look at how this thing's playing out, and first of all, let me say this: I love that all these guys, all these boxing guys, love the Ali Act the way it is now. I want to see how many of them actually stay there and do that version of the Ali Act instead of the add-on that we're going to do. You know what I mean? You don't have to be a fucking rocket scientist to see what's going on with all these guys. They're all these guys that are crying the loudest are the fucking problems. They're the problem, every one of these guys. And, Crawford, nobody told Crawford to say anything. Crawford's his own man doing his own thing, and that's how he feels. And we'll see how this thing plays out in the next couple of years.
Are you surprised by this frosty reception from the other boxing promoters?
No, not at all.
We are witnessing a slow-motion collision between boxing's past and its future. On one side are the old bureaucratic bodies, draining fighters through fees for belts that lose significance by the day. On the other side is a new powerhouse treating boxing like a unified league. Max Kellerman has chosen his side, not because he's scripted, but because the truth is visible to everyone. The WBC stripped Terence Crawford of a belt, but in the process, they may have stripped themselves of their last shred of relevance.
You told me that 20 years ago at Il Molino. I would think, yeah, but what has this guy done that he thinks he can do that in boxing? But now the track record says, yes, he can do it. You have institutional knowledge of how to do it. And then partnered with Turki Al-Sheikh and Nick Khan, by the way, what I think unites all three of you is you love boxing. Like, all three of you guys love boxing. And is that what brought you guys together? Like, I think of boxing for so long, the power brokers a lot of times didn't even like the sport. Is that the unifying thing here?
Yeah, and everybody hated each other in boxing too. Yeah, it's almost like this was meant to happen. I've been talking about it, saying, you know, I'm kicking the tires, I'm looking at it, timing is everything. And then the way that this whole thing came together, it literally reminds me of every other thing that's happened to me in my life. It's like this was the time and the place and the right people